underground tunnel system built centuries ago.
Come on! What are you, a bird?
Who, me? Yes.
The adventure too big for one movie continues.
This is a treasure map.
Treasure?
Treasure.
I'm getting a real sinking feeling. When Fievel, Tiger, and all their friends return.
What's that? Bravo!
In an all-new, full-length animated feature.
You have a cat with you.
I'm thinking of converting. Explore the mystery.
You've shown us all your world. We could show you ours.
Join in the fun.
We have to fight that little princess fast.
And live the tale.
Wrong species.
We can go anywhere in our dreams.
Steady there, Romeo.
We can imagine.
Universal Studios presents the remarkable story of one little mouse discovering the treasure within himself. An American Tale 3, The Treasure of Manhattan Island, coming soon from Universal Studios Home Video.
So the interesting thing about this particular movie is that it actually first premiered in the United Kingdom in 1998, but it didn't get a video release here in America until February of 2000. So that's why I'm covering it now instead of doing it back in 1998. But this is the third installment of the American Tale series, and this one you can definitely tell if you've seen enough animation in your life, especially like Warner Brothers animation in the 90s and all that, you can definitely tell that who the animation company this is. That is TMS. That's the company that did a lot of the animation for, Tiny Toons, the Animaniacs, Batman the Animated Series. They did the animation for Akira. It's weird seeing their animation style on this. I will say that right off the get-go. But the story here is that in the historical melting pot of the 19th century New York City, Fievel and the Mousegoods family are struggling to make their American dream come true. But when a mysterious treasure map leads Fievel and his friends to a secret world of Native American mice living beneath the city, he finds something more precious than gold and jewels. So yeah, remember Fievel Goes West? Remember that TV series they had after the movie came out? Well, according to this movie, none of that ever happened. I'm not even kidding. There's literally a scene where they retcon everything that had happened after the first movie, and it's like never happened. It's like that season of Dallas when they had all that crazy stuff happen, and they basically said at the end of the season it was all a dream. I mean, I really don't get why they felt like they needed to pull this Deus Ex Machina and pretend like these two things never existed. It's not like the sequel or the series was heavily hated by people. I mean, you still saw Fievel Goes West on Disney and Cartoon Network a lot back then, and I mean, were kids just expecting to believe that this film never existed? I mean, it's a really weird retcon to do. I mean, it's not like they could have just said, hey, this takes place before the Mousegoods moved to the Old West, and you could have said that, and it probably still would have made some sense, even though the premise on Wikipedia says it does take place before the events of the second movie, although they never really specify it to the actual movie, so what's the point of having this in here to begin with? I don't know. It feels a little weird to kind of pretend the sequel or the series never happened at that point. But as far as the film itself goes, it's perfectly fine. It's a decent direct-to-video sequel. The animation as a whole is a step down compared to the movies, obviously, but for a direct-to-video sequel, it's still impressive. I mean, like I said, it's TMS. It's a company that you go to when you have some quality animation to it. You got some really good voice acting overall here. Thomas Dekker, who you would later see in Terminator: Sarah Connor Chronicles, fits the role of Fievel, and Lacey Chabelle as Tanya pretty well. They bring back the two parents from the previous movie. Pat Music is back as well. Dom DeLuise as Tiger. They do bring in some recognizable voice talents like Tony Jay, Ron Perlman, Renee Abujan's, David Carradine, Sherman Howard, John Casier. So recognizable voice casts. There are some nice little songs here. There's one, Anywhere in Your Dreams. It's a very soothing and comfortable song. And while it's certainly no Somewhere Out There, it's perfectly fine for what it is. And that's probably the best way to describe this movie as a whole. It's nothing groundbreaking or anything in the spirit of the original film, but for what it is, it's a fun little adventure film that fits with the enjoyment of the last movie. It's an enjoyable and fun little direct-to-video sequel that delivers on what it sells you. A fun watch, but not one that's going to warrant a ton of repeat viewing. And we're not done with the Mousegoods family in this year. We'll get to them later on, but let's go ahead and move on to the next direct-to-video film I have here, and that is an extremely goofy movie.
He's a son going off to college. Going already? See ya! Goodbye, my little college man. And going for the extreme adventure.
Let's do it!
Until...
Maxie! I'm just a yearning for some learning.
next February and only on video. One goofy dad is about to learn how to groove. Disney presents a movie that proves no matter how old you are, you never stop learning that family comes first, even if your dad is goofy.
Dad, you're scaring people.
An extremely goofy movie, shredding onto video. Leap Day 2000.
So this is a sequel to, of course, a Goofy movie, which came out in 1995. And you basically have the story here where Max is going off to college, and his father, Goofy, he needs to get a job, and unfortunately, a lot of jobs require a college degree. So basically, you can see where the setup is going here. He has to go to Max's college and essentially get a degree because of his failure to complete college. And you know, the original Goofy movie was a fun movie for what it was. It's fun for the fans of the Goof Troop TV series, and so for the sequel, it actually makes sense for it to go direct to video. And seeing as how it's a sequel to a surprisingly successful movie that was released kind of under the radar, but in the years since its release, it's had that following growing and growing. So how does it hold up? Not very well, but at the same time, there are things about it that I do kind of enjoy about it. I think for a direct-to-video production, it's animated pretty well. It's about half as good as the Goofy movie was, but then again, that movie had a bigger budget and was intended more for a theatrical audience. And I mean, this one's more aimed at the direct-to-video audience. And the story is about as generic and as predictable as you can get it. You can do these kind of cliches and tropes. You do get them in there that kind of expect you to have a story like this, but there are some legitimately heartfelt moments. There even is a little homage to something that they had in Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas that's thrown in there, saying that basically these two worlds are connected, even though it clearly does not look like the same thing. The house doesn't look. Some things about this movie don't look the same as the Once Upon a Christmas universe setup with Goofy and Max. But great voice casting overall. Jason Marsden does a pretty good job again as Max, as Bill Farmer as Goofy. Jim Cummings shows up as Pete early in the movie. Rob Paulsen, Pauly Shore. They had some new additions to the cast. You got Jeff Bennett playing the preppy bad guy to Max. Brad Garrett is kind of his lackey. Vicki Lewis has this decent role as PJ's love interest, which has basically taken on a life of its own. And you got Bebe Neuwirth, who usually will turn up in something very fun and usually give a great performance. She's very good as Goofy's love interest in this. And unlike a Goofy movie, which was basically a sequel, this movie is played straight with no musical scenes in it, even though there is a lot of classic 70s and 80s songs on it, along with some new revivals, which, you know, that's kind of my bread and butter. And really, one of my favorite songs on this is on the soundtrack for this is the one for Right Back Where We Started From, done by Cleopatra. It's a really good version of the song, almost as good, if not slightly better than the original song, and that original song is a classic song, but this is definitely the most underrated movie song I think I've ever heard, because it's one that nobody really ever talks about, but man, is it good. Like, an extremely Goofy movie may not be on that same level as the original Goofy movie, but it's still a decent movie. It's got some good animation, some good voice work, some good deep jokes, good music overall. I mean, if you like the original Goofy movie or the Goof Troop cartoon, you'll definitely really enjoy it, but if you're not, I wouldn't say rush out to see it, but maybe you might, who knows. But, yeah. Let's go back to the Moskowitz. They had another movie come out in 2000 for the American Tales series, and that is The Mystery of the Night Monster.
Fievel's back. And he's made some new friends, including newspaper reporter Nellie Breach.
That's my byline.
You're fearless.
No, Fievel. Only fools are fearless.
They're on the case of the Manhattan Night Monster.
Let's you and I go shed a little light on this monster.
Now, Fievel must set out to find his courage.
I've never been so scared my whole life.
And face his fears.
Run him down!
As he leads the way through his most exciting adventure yet. Filled with songs.
Everyone's afraid at times, but if you use your wits,
You'll find that what once was scary is really very ordinary.
Really?
Really?
Featuring Fievel, Tanya,
Things could not get any worse.
Tiger,
Did you say dog?
Tony,
Yo, Fully!
and lots of new characters.
Once a creature de la nuit, the dog of Paris. And nowhere in the world is there a dog more smart than me.
An incredible story the entire family will enjoy. An American Tale, The Mystery of the Night Monster.
So this is the fourth and final installment of the American Tale series, and it only came out about 4 months after the previous one, Treasure of the Manhattan Island, came out in America in July, and I think it was kind of under the radar, too. I don't remember a lot of people really talking about it when it came out. It just kind of came, but then again, there was another movie that came out the same day from Universal, and we'll get to that one after this one, but the story here is that you have a ferocious, mouse-nabbing creature that puts fear into the hearts of New York City's rodents. Fievel and his friends team up with a reporter to chase after the scoop of the century and just maybe get a glimpse of the bad guy himself. Needless to say, this one is probably the weakest of the 4 American Tale movies, even less than the Treasure on Manhattan Island was, which did have some solid animations, some decent songs to it, but here you can definitely tell it's definitely watered down. You can tell that there's a difference in animation quality. It's definitely another overseas studios with lesser quality than the previous film had. This time the songs are very generic and bland in this one compared to the last film. They don't have any real memorability to them, honestly, or lyrically. You almost immediately forget them as soon as they come on. I guess maybe the only thing I can give the movie credit for is that it does have a stellar voice cast to it. With a mix of returning cast members as well as the new cast here. They're doing a pretty good job with it, but I just wish they had a better script to work with here. And for something that is the last entry in the American Tale series, you'd have to wish for a better finale to the series than what this might give you. I mean, Mystery of the Night Monster really is not a bad movie, but it's not a great movie either. And I think by this point, people got really sick and tired of this pretty quickly. I mean, think about where the Land Before Time movies were when they started doing them every year. They made more of these they made multiple movies of those, and people didn't get tired of those for a long period of time. People were already sick and tired of this by the time the 4th movie came around. So that should tell you something. I think Land Before Time was it was either at a 7th or 8th movie at this point. It might have been 7th, but I mean, for little kids, it's fine, but everything else, I'd say just stick with the original 2 movies instead of the direct-to-video sequels. If you're desperate, Treasure of Manhattan Island probably would be the best of the 2, but, yeah, just stick with the original 2 films. So what was that other Universal direct-to-video sequel that came out on the very same day? Well, it was Beethoven.
America's favorite dog is back. He's loyal, he's lovable, and he's got a nose for trouble. Now, with his newfound family, he's about to embark on his hairiest adventure yet.
He's an untrained, drooling hairball. He's a hero.
This whole trip has become a catastrophe because of that dog.
Honey, he can't consciously ruin anything. I don't think. Dogs!
It's the biggest family comedy of the year. Judge Reinhold.
We are not staying in a hotel.
And Julia Sweeney. Beethoven's Third. Coming soon on video.
So Beethoven's Third came out on the same day as An American Tale 4, and it was the first of the direct-to-video sequels, which there was apparently a lot of them too. There was after this one, there was the 4th one. There was basically a sequel to this one, a 5th one, and then they started having another series where Beethoven basically became a star in Hollywood, and then there was that one where Beethoven basically had the voice of Tom Arnold in a Christmas movie, and then there was one more that came after that, and I don't know which direction they went at, but again, it's been a while since I've seen most of these, but you have the story here about the Newton family from the first 2 Beethoven movies. They're on vacation in Europe, but do plan to join a Newton family reunion to make sure one of their family members definitely makes it. They ship Beethoven to travel to the reunion with George Newton's brother Richard, played by Judge Reinhold. Guess which family? I just told you what it is. The giant dog follows Richard Newton and his family of a nagging wife played by Julia Sweeney and two bratty kids as they hit the road to California in a huge, shiny, inexpensive RV equipped with a DVD player. This was back when having a DVD player was like the fancy technology, but then again, that's kind of what it's basically not that now. It's just kind of like we all have a DVD player in some way, shape, or form. But following the family, there are two bumbling crooks who have hidden some secret codes on a DVD that they figure no one in the world would buy, but someone does. And guess who it is? It's Judge Reinhold's character. So now they have a DVD holding top secret information, and the crooks must get it back. I mean, just by that alone, you can tell this took a major step down in quality from here compared to the first two movies. But to this film's credit, it's not the worst, but it's not anywhere near as good as the original films are. I mean, the jokes are very predictable. The setup is very predictable. The cliches of most road trip movies are in this one. The bumbling crooks are like Home Alone. I mean, this came out in 2000. We were past the Home Alone phase at this point, and yet this movie decided to throw them in there. And it gets way too complicated than it needs to be. Like, a DVD, like, you're going to put a secret codes on a Don Knotts DVD? Really? Like... It just gets more. It's just a complicated setup of situations here, and it's just like it doesn't make a whole. The movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I guess that was what they were aiming for. But there's just nothing here in Beethoven's Third that make this a must-watch by any stretch of the imagination. It's just very predictable, very forgettable. I mean, if you just love Beethoven, maybe you might want to check it. Maybe you could check it out, but you're not gonna get a whole lot out of it. I mean, I loved Beethoven growing up. Even I was just kind of like, yeah, this isn't doing it for me, but apparently it was a success because they made several sequels after this one. So what do I know? But that's Beethoven's Third. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next, direct-to-video movie we have here, and that is Buzz Lightyear of Star Command: The Adventure Begins, starring Tim Allen.
It's here! It's the new action-packed Buzz Lightyear movie! Put it in! Put it in!
Darn thing's jammed.
Let me take a look at that.
Every hero has a beginning. Every hero has an arch enemy.
Lightyear must not escape.
Every hero has someone to rescue. Every hero lives for the thrill of adventure.
I'll bet that one scratched the paint.
But this is no ordinary hero.
Okay, it's so obvious.
It's Buzz Lightyear.
My galaxy! I can't stand the suspense!
Disney and Pixar present Buzz Lightyear of Star Command: The Adventure Begins, starring Tim Allen.
I must overcome the evil Emperor Zurg, the sworn enemy of the Galactic Alliance.
It's the story of the real Buzz Lightyear
You don't look so fat when they draw you that way.
and the Space Rangers of Star Command.
Life or death struggle in the cold fastness of outer space.
Premiering only on video and Disney DVD August 8th.
To infinity and beyond.
Now, this is the thing I would believe that made Andy a fan of Buzz Lightyear. Not whatever Lightyear was trying to do. But, as you can tell, this is the feature-length pilot episode for the Buzz Lightyear Star Command animated series that came on TV in 2000-2001 season. And you have Tim Allen playing Buzz Lightyear in the movie, although he would later be changed to Patrick Warburton in the TV series. In fact, when they actually cut this down into 3 episodes, it was actually Patrick Warburton doing the voices for Buzz Lightyear in the TV series and not the movie. The movie basically is basically how the series gets started. You know, Buzz basically is being forced to work with they're trying to force a partner on him, and he doesn't like doing that, especially after what happened to his last partner, who we find out later works for the evil Emperor Zurg, once again played by Wayne Knight. And the adventures of the movie just basically show off the adventures of him, the Little Green Men, and all these different characters he comes across. And this is, like I said, it's what I think of when I think of a Buzz Lightyear movie that would make a person like Andy become a fan of his. I mean, this is just it features an incredible top-notch cast that includes Tim Allen, Patrick Warburton, Wayne Knight, Larry Miller, Nicole Sullivan, Adam Carolla, Stephen Furst, Diedrich Bader, Neil Flynn. Just and it features that same sense of, we're doing a straight up send-up of Saturday morning cartoons and we're not going to take this all seriously mentality. It manages to create that same over-the-top hilarious energy, which also does a great job of establishing its own universe and storylines, as well as a pretty awesome and hilarious group of villains to come in the TV series. I mean, this could have easily been a cheap cash grab, but the people behind the scenes actually put the time into it. They created this grand scale and universe with these characters that created a great show and movie that sadly is not on Disney Plus, which makes no sense whatsoever, but one day, we hope that one day that'll change pretty soon, I hope, even though John Lasseter's not there anymore. And he supposedly was not a fan of this series whatsoever, but it's got to be put back on there at some point. In fact, Disney Plus has several shows that aren't on there, like House of Mouse is still not on there, a couple of other things on there. Runaway Brain's not on there for some reason. Terrific Mickey Mouse short, but yeah, Buzz Lightyear Star Command, The Adventure Begins. Definitely look for this one. Even if you can't find it on Disney Plus, I'm sure you can find the show somewhere out there. It's definitely worth it in the end. So, with that said, let's go back to Universal and see another animated film they put out, Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman.
There, this Halloween. Those three mischief makers are back in an all-new full-length feature.
How do you do? What's up with you? Little brother, how come you're howling at the moon?
Something's up with Theodore.
That's Theodore?
Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman. Bring it home today.
Yeah, you can kind of see what makes this so interesting. You realize the major problem with this setup. You're taking the story of the Wolfman and applying it into a kid's movie. You know, that this story can only end one way, and that's going to end up with one less chipmunk being there once the movie ends, if you really want to take this movie out of context like I'm doing right now. But let's talk about this movie. Basically Alvin is struggling with nightmares of werewolves. He believes that his next-door neighbor, Mr. Talbot, get it, Lawrence Talbot, voiced by Maurice LaMarche, is a werewolf, and of course no one believes him. Meanwhile, the boys are working on a school production of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Alvin basically blows up the school auditorium. He's expelled from the production. Theodore is basically put in to be the lead and rise to his lack of confidence, and basically Theodore gets bitten by the werewolf, Mr. Talbot, and essentially turns into a werewolf, but not in the way you might think. And it's going to get pretty interesting as we move along here. But I will say this, as an overall sequel to the other movie, the Frankenstein one, it's a radical upgrade. Like, this looks much closer to the 80s TV series style. Like, this has much better songs, has a better put together plot line. Actual life lessons are kind of learned in this, so it seems like you kind of have a winner here, but really delve into this. The plot is more understandable and easy to understand compared to the previous movie. There are still a lot of noticeable flaws to the story that goes right back to the title of the film. For starters, like I said, the name of the next-door neighbor of Alvin's is Lawrence Talbot, the same man in the original Wolfman who turned into the werewolf. And considering how Alvin loves horror and science fiction, you would have thought he would have put these two things together, and of course he doesn't, because nobody believes him, even though they've established in the last movie that Frankenstein exists in this world. Yeah, there are some nitpicks, too, with the plot that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. For example, this is the only one of the two movies that features the Chipettes, and here, for some strange reason, they have Britney sounding like a Valley girl, or more than likely, since this was 5 years after Clueless, she kind of sounds like Cher from that movie. It's a really odd decision on the part of Janice Carmen, the co-creator of the Chipmunks, to go in that direction, but I don't know, it just felt kind of odd and out of place in my opinion. But and then there's that one part that a lot of people seem to overlook but I just remember this one part that just comes out as odd if you listen closely. So there's a part where Alvin is forced out of the production of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the director's talking to the principal about who should take over the part and suggests Theodore to be the replacement. If you listen really closely, you can hear the principal whispering in the director's ear. I literally can hear the phrase, "Bless the Lord with all your," and I'm not even joking. The whisper literally starts off like the sound of a prayer. I don't know if that was intentional or just a random out of nowhere line, but you ever watch the movie again, listen to that scene very closely, because you can definitely, because once I tell you about it, you can kind of pretty much hear it right from the get-go. But to me, the biggest problem with the movie that comes into play here is that It happens in the last 20 minutes where you have all the crazy stuff happening because Dave literally comes face to face with Talbot as the werewolf, proving that, you know, hey, Alvin wasn't completely insane in thinking this monster actually exists, and tries to get to the kids before Talbot does. Meanwhile, Theodore basically spends most of the movie as a werewolf puppy, but then he finally turns into a full-fledged werewolf, and by full-fledged werewolf, I mean Jack Black if he never shaved his facial and starts causing havoc backstage. I mean, that's literally what I thought of when I saw this again. I thought to myself, that's not a werewolf, that's Jack Black. I mean, like, again, watch the movie and you'll see what I'm talking about. So Talbot finally makes it to school because Dave doesn't realize until the last minute he's leading Talbot right to them, so oops on his part, and he eventually comes face to face with Alvin himself. So Theodore has Eleanor cornered in this corner, but this amulet that he gave her earlier in the film kind of snaps him out of it, and he runs off only to return once Talbot gets ready to attack Alvin and the gang on stage, and thus the two have a one-on-one standoff. And the biggest WTF plot twist of this movie is that they fight, but then when Theodore bites Talbot, it somehow gets rid of the curse, and thus both Talbot and Theodore are cured of the werewolf's curse. That's how they avoid the obvious real ending of having the wolf being shot by a silver bullet. I mean, again, would have been a really dark ending to the movie and the whole franchise, but it's never explained what happened. Simon basically says that because Theodore bit Talbot back, it reversed the curse, and thus things went back to normal, which I guess is not a bad explanation, but an idea I had would have been to essentially have the same situation, except have it so that Theodore bites Talbot in the exact same spot that Talbot bit Theodore at. Thus, the whole reversing the curse scenario would make more sense to it. I mean, that's just the way I see it. It's odd, but hey, at least it's better than taking the darker way out and shooting Theodore in the heart with a silver bullet. Or if you really want to go crazy for it, do like what Wednesday and Pugsley do in the Addams Family movie when they're on stage and like all the audience is literally thinking this is all part of an act, and some blood sprays all over the place with the werewolf chews up all the kids. Like, again, it'd be like in that scene from the Addams Family, but the biggest case of Holy Mother of contrived happy endings comes at the very end when you had the big after party. The principal who earlier in the film announces that she's retiring, and guess who the new principal is? It's Lawrence Talbot. So it's a good thing they got rid of the curse before his job started, because that would have been really awkward. And you know, Dave doesn't realize that the situation is taken care of, and they literally tell him that Theodore took down a werewolf, and Dave wants to know how the hell he did that, and I was just like, yeah, he doesn't need to know that. I think he kind of does. I mean, he literally saw Talbot turn into a werewolf. He knows that Alvin isn't insane, and he deserves some form of an explanation or apology for what the hell has happened over the last few days, but the movie just completely forgets about it. 360's over to a song, and they all live happily ever after it. I mean, again, intended solely for kids. I understand, but there's a lot of plot holes there that really need to be addressed. But so overall, how does the movie fare up in general? It is definitely a vast improvement over the Frankenstein movie. Better animation, more colorful, more vibrant, more like the 80s cartoon. The songs are nicely done. The voice acting is pretty good. The plot line better handled for the most part, and there is a good life lesson about, you know, standing up for yourself and not just being a push-up. But with that said, the last 20 minutes of the movie just goes so crazy and so ridiculous. It kind of takes the overall enjoyment of the film away a little bit, but it's a harmless movie. It's a heavily flawed film, but a very harmless movie. I'd say for, like, if it ever comes on TV once a year, definitely check it out. If you grew up with the original 80s Alvin and the Chipmunks show, or even with the Chipmunks before then, I think you definitely would get a kick out of this. But just be prepared for a lot of plot holes to come. So with that said, on to the next movie we have here, and that is Tweety's High-Flying Adventure.
Video. His mission. Collect 80 paw prints. His deadline. Gotcha! 80 days. The only one big enough for the job.
It is you, oh great one.
Is a bird.
Thank you.
Introducing Tweety in his all-new feature-length movie. He's on a mission that seems impossible.
My Tweety can travel around the world in 80 days, collecting the paw prints of 80 cats.
He has to travel the globe to show everyone he's no featherweight. He'll use anything he's got.
On the way.
To get everywhere he needs to go.
Go, Tweety!
For the first time, the tiny one has hit the big time.
What's the big attraction?
Tweety! Tweety's high-flying adventure.
Mr. Popular.
Now available only on video cassette.
Speaking of movies with a lot of ridiculous plot points, here's another one. So basically, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it kind of feels like it is, because a lot of the same people who worked on the show are on this. I mean, this feels like a finale to the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, which was the show in the 90s, which featured Sylvester and Tweety and Granny solving mysteries. And the basic storyline of this one is that you have, on the 2nd of October, Colonel Rimfire at the Looney Club in London announces about his belief that cats are the most intelligent, most musical animals, after his many plans were foiled by Cool Cat. So Granny, hoping to raise money for a nearby children's park, makes a wager that her Tweety can fly around the world in 80 days, collecting the prop prints of 80 cats. So the whole thing starts out because one character believes that cats are the most intelligent animal out there, and so Granny basically decides, you know what? Have my Tweety fly around the world in 80 days and collect 80 cat prints. I mean, that makes sense, I guess. But, by the way, you know what would really make Tweety seem smarter than cats? If he just took the password he was given to get the paw prints and smacked Sylvester unconscious and just used his paw for the 80 paw prints. I mean, do cats have that many different paw prints features to them? I mean, I guess maybe the nails could be an extra feature, but he could work his way around that. But, again, we wouldn't have a movie because of that. So Sylvester, still hoping to make Tweety his personal snack, is incensed at the thought of the other cats getting to him first, and vows to follow Tweety around the world and catch the canary himself. Because for some reason in this movie, Tweety has basically become the only bird in the world, because every cat in the world decides to go after Tweety, even if it means stopping a children's park from getting demolished. Apparently the cats have been possessed by the spirit of somebody like Donald Trump. I mean, that's basically what it is. Oh, and there's a thief that's also around stealing passports, and he stole the wrong passport. They set him up early in the movie. He never shows up again until the end of the movie, and trust me, it's just stupid what they do to this guy at the end of the film, but we'll get along to this as we move along here, and it has some good music overall on this one. You got Randy Rogel, who did a lot of the music for Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, and Pinky and the Brain. They're not really, actually, the more I think about it, they're not really that great, but especially considering that you have a guy like him on there. But it feels like he's not even trying anymore. Like, he's not even really going in as much as I think he should with these, even though he's written a lot of great songs for Animaniacs, you know, Tiny Toons and Pinky and the Brain, these classic shows that we grew up with in the 90s. But, so basically, Tweety goes off to Paris. He's blown into a strange wind by the Swiss Alps. He eventually gets trapped, so Daffy and Bugs both have to save him. Yeah. You know, Daffy and Bugs are on the cover of this movie on video and DVD. We never see him again at this point. You have two of the... It's like, they're on the cover of the video and DVD, and, like, who needs Bugs and Daffy when we get Lola Bunny? Not the Lola Bunny that was actually funny on the Looney Tunes show. No, this is still the Space Jam, not Looney in any way, don't call me doll, Lola Bunny. So, there's that. I mean, basically the entire movie is Tweety goes somewhere, there's a whole bunch of cats gobbling up, he has to escape, hilarity ensues, again, lather, rinse, repeat. It's nice to know that the bird rapture just happened, and apparently Tweety's the only bird left in the world to be eaten, at least for now, as we basically have another bird that gets introduced in this movie as he goes to Egypt, and the movie just keeps... the winds keep taking these two to many different places. Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and Japan. And eventually making it onto a boat to the United States. Which, if you look at a map, you could tell... You know why the winds are a major plot point in this. Because it's like they're trying to make you forget that they are just going all over the map. No consistency or continuity whatsoever. But whatever, it's Looney Tunes logic. It's the same logic that basically says a male baby duck can be given growth pills, get turned into a female duck. I mean... It's stupid, but you acknowledge its stupidity and just go along with it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Nasty Quacks, because that's literally the ending of this cartoon. Great cartoon, but at the same time, it's just like, how does it happen? I don't know. Screw it. But, so yeah, you get some more pointless cameos from the other Looney Tunes, like Taz and all that. And then it just gets kind of ridiculous at some point, because, like, there's a part in the movie where... You know, there's a part of the movie where they try to tug at your heartstrings because, you know, Tweety ends up singing this song about it, which is not a bad song per se, but there's one problem with the placement of the song here. It's like, nothing really happens in the movie for this song to be sung. It's like, they go into a hurricane because Tweety says they can save a day by going through the storm, and Auga, who's the other bird that he comes across, ends up getting sucked up in the winds, and they make you think it's because Tweety was being selfish for trying to get there a day early, and that doesn't really happen at all. They get separated because of Mother Nature, and not because of what Tweety was trying to do. The whole thing becomes pointless, and there's nothing there but to fill the filler to pad out the runtime. And then we get to the ending, which really is stupid even for Looney Tunes standards, but... So they basically get to this pub, and the thief from before, who had nothing to do in the time that we saw him in the beginning of the film to now, basically comes, tries to take the royal passport, is foiled almost immediately, and then the stupid thing about the thief is that he eats the passports that he steals. Why does he do this? Never explained. No reason whatsoever. He just eats passports. I mean, you're just, I guess you're just supposed to accept it because it's Looney Tunes logic, but even for Looney Tunes logic, this is really, really stupid. It's not even funny. It's just kind of like, why is he doing this? Like, we'll never know. And, yeah, Sylvester attempts to frame Tweety by passing his license to fly for the stolen royal passport, which wasn't the point of him trying to eat Tweety all along, so what good does putting Tweety in prison do for Sylvester? And he basically almost succeeds, and then... But it turns out the real passport's in his hands, and thus the cops are absolutely pointless in doing that. And so Tweety and I would believe they're a day late, but because it's the 21st of December, they cross the international date line. They're able to get back to London, only to find out that they managed to get 79 paw prints. And Tweety never realizes he forgets Sylvester, so he flies into the prison truck that he's in to get his paw print, basically saving the park. So it gets really stupid. This is a really, really dumb movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's elements I do not like about this. I like the voice work. You know, it's June Foray and Joe Lasky once again working off each other. It's got a couple of decent funny moments, but then you have to sit through some dumb plot points and character traits, pointless filler material, lackluster music, sloppy animation. This is some really sloppy animation. This movie feels like they were trying to do what the Chipmunk Adventure did back in the 80s, but the Chipmunk Adventure had a bigger animation budget, and it showed. It had good music. It had a good story. It was much more consistent. But this just feels like a mess. It completely makes the Looney Tunes style of humor seem like it was not funny at all. I mean, you'd be better off just watching the Sylvester and Tweety mysteries and get a better product out of it. But this was one of those big letdowns I remember as a kid, So, yeah, that's Tweety's high-flying adventure. So, on to the next movie we have here, Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea.
10 years ago, a mermaid dreamed of life on the land.
I've never seen a human this close before.
Now, her daughter dreams of the sea.
You know what? Sometimes I even pretend I have fins.
The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea. Get ready for a story unlike any other.
This is the only way. Melody can't know about merpeople or Atlantica.
It's an adventure you'll never forget.
What's happening? Melody!
Walt Disney Pictures proudly presents an all-new, full-length animated feature.
I know this necklace means something. If no one's gonna tell me, I'm gonna find out for myself.
The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea. Premiering only on video and Disney DVD. I'm too old for this.
This is, of course, the sequel to the original Little Mermaid film. This takes place over a decade after the original film and focuses on Ariel and Eric's daughter, Melody, played by Tara Strong, who's a human princess who longs to swim in the ocean despite her parents' laws that the sea is forbidden to her. It's a kind of an interesting idea. You're basically kind of doing a role reversal of the original film. Like, in the original film, it's Ariel's daughter where Ariel's daughter dreams of life in the sea, where Ariel's dream in the original movie was to live on land. And there's potential to make this an interesting conflict, but it doesn't work that way. It feels like the only real goal behind this was simply, hey, let's bring back all these beloved characters people fell in love with the first time and do a generic-ass direct-to-video movie. I mean, it literally feels like that type of a film. And, hey, here's some Timon and Pumbaa-like characters because The Lion King was still popular and Timon and Pumbaa are still popular. So, you know, who needs Sebastian, Scuttle, and Flounder? Here's these two characters you will not give two craps about whatsoever. Oh, and by the way, Ursula's not back in this, or at least not Ursula herself. She died in the first movie, but it's not like nobody has ever brought back villains before who were previously believed dead. But, like, if you're going to go back to the trouble of bringing Pat Carroll back as the new villain of this, why not just have the return of the old character? But then again, the next Little Mermaid movie they did kind of also ruins the continuity of that villain more, but we'll save that for when we get to Ariel's beginning. But as far as the movie goes, it just doesn't come together well. It's nice they got some of the original voice actors back. There is some good casting in Tara Strong as her daughter, but then again, these characters are not really given a whole lot of motivations to relate to, like to everything that they dealt with in the last movie. I mean, Eric barely does anything in this movie. I mean, Rob Paulson's kind of wasted in that role, basically playing the role that Chris Daniel Barnes played in the last film. To me, the biggest problem with the movie overall is the animation. It just feels so watered down, and the effort doesn't seem like it's there. I mean, you go back and look at the Little Mermaid, the original Little Mermaid, you can see the passion and creativity with the animation. A role so important to Glenn Keane, who basically begged the studio to let him do the animation for Ariel after listening to Part of Your World, and saying that he could feel in his heart to do so. I mean, anybody with that much passion to draw that character knows he's going to give it his all when you see the final product, and lo and behold, that's why Glenn Keane's one of the best, not just one of Disney's best animators, but one of the best animators, period. This movie, the passion is not there. It seems watered down. It feels like a Disney afternoon show blown up for a feature-length film. It really doesn't work. It's a lackluster sequel to one of the definitive movies of a generation. It took a lot of the charm and the wit that was in the last film. It should have been something more interesting, but it's a badly put-together cash grab. When you think of bad Disney direct-to-video sequels, this is the one you definitely think of. Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea. So, back to more Warner Brothers direct-to-video sequels. Here's Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders.
We are not alone. There is life lurking out there.
I told you they're real.
If they invade, who will save us? It's landing now. The all-new movie Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. Only on video cassette and DVD.
What are you talking about?
Featuring out-of-this-world action and close encounters of the funniest kind. Cooperate and will not be harmed. Are they real? What does the government know? Will Scooby-Doo and Shaggy finally get enough to eat? Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, now only on video cassette and DVD. From Warner Brothers Family Entertainment.
So this is the third of the Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movies after Zombie Island and The Witch's Ghost. In this story, you have a cosmic case of UFOs, intergalactic intrigue, and out-of-this-world romance launching the mystery gang into the most unearthly adventure ever. Stranded in Roswell, New Mexico, the gang soon discovers the place crawling with UFO buffs, secretive scientists, and less-than-friendly alien invaders. They then, after being chased by aliens being about an UFO, Shaggy and Scooby fall for this woman and another dog that come around, Crystal and Amber, and they investigate the mysterious sightings, which lead them to a government research base and a huge network of caves hidden under the town. And let me just say right now, we're taking a step down with the tone of these movies, starting with it started with a darker and more intense tone with Zombie Island, with the monsters being real, back to a slightly more formulaic but still heavy enough tone in Witch's Ghost. This one's basically going back to the typical standard Scooby-Doo formula where the real villains are humans in disguise. Now, does it make the movie bad? No, but it does make it more formulaic and kind of more cliched riddled than the previous movies were. I mean, it felt like the studios got more complaints from the people about the darker tone in the other two movies, but that was kind of the point of what they were trying to do. It felt like they were trying to force a lighter tone movie, and as far as the movie itself goes, it's fine. I still think the animation in these first couple of movies are still pretty good and more crisper and more high quality than what you would expect with these characters and what would eventually come down the road. But the overall twists and turns and intrigue are kind of predictable. The story is not really all that memorable, nor are the bad guys' motivations and purpose for this plan, which we know why they're doing it to begin with. I mean, it's definitely the lesser of the three Scooby-Doo movies that I've looked at so far, but there are still some redeemable qualities to it that make it a watch that you should see. It's more of a typical Scooby-Doo-esque adventure, and it's fine for what it is, but it definitely is a step down compared to the other movies. One last direct-to-video film to look at here, and that is Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker.
2000. Beware of his presence. The arch-enemy is back. He will threaten the city. He's a maniac. With awful power. And no one can help. no one except Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. The first feature-length Batman Beyond movie coming exclusively to video fall 2000. And this time, he's not alone.
So this is, of course, based off the Batman Beyond TV series, which I remember when I saw this for the first time, I didn't really get into Batman Beyond from the get-go. It took me a long time to really get into it, and even then, I'm just kind of like, it's fine for what it is. I mean, it's fine, but it's not Batman the Animated Series. Basically, the story of this movie is that you have Terry trying to figure out the Joker's secrets and discovers the greatest mystery in the career of the original Batman, the true story of the night Batman fought the Joker for the last time. Though when Bruce Wayne is almost killed in one of the Joker's newest attacks, as he comes back in some weird shape form that we find out later on, it's up to Batman Beyond to avenge his mentor and put the Joker to rest forever. And a lot of it plays. There's a lot of creep factors into this. A lot of it because of the futuristic Joker, which is more menacing and threatening feel to him than compared to what he was before, like in the new Batman Adventures, when he had this completely new look that didn't work with anything. I feel like they kind of melded the two together into one thing to make it kind of give him a more creepy and intensifying look. And again, Mark Hamill's voice still coming out of that same Joker we've come to know and love. I mean, this is easily one of the darkest animated movies I've seen, because it's a movie that really it doesn't help that you had a movie that this was released right around the time of the Columbine shootings, and the movie was actually edited down considerably. They actually changed the way the Joker was killed in this, and a lot of these changes were very controversial. And in fact, they actually did release an uncut version of this a couple of years after this movie came out. The Joker death scene in this is one of the most messed up, intense moments in any movie, because you just see how crazy the Joker brainwashes Tim Drake in this and just tortures him to eventually turn him against Batman. It's one of the most darkest and most intense things you'll ever see in an animated movie. And something you'll probably never notice about this is that Tim Drake, after the Joker gets him, is actually voiced by the casting director of this, Andrea Romano, who's worked on a ton of different Warner Brothers animation. It comes together in a nice, action-packed and occasionally very funny end, where Terry has to basically taunt the Joker into this great line about how Terry thought the Joker always wanted to make Batman laugh, and the Joker screams out, "You're not Batman!" It's just a great bit of dialogue, and the film comes to a very satisfying payoff at the end. The way the Joker comes back into the picture is explained actually pretty well here, especially how the Joker actually manages to come back even though he was killed. This is easily one of the darkest DC animated movies you'll ever see. It's one of the best ones they've ever produced, and it gives the movie its big edge. It lets the filmmakers test the grounds outside of their normal environment, and once again, they succeed in creating one of the stronger DC animated movies, and coming right at the peak when the Bruce Timm and his team were basically moving on to other things within the universe of DC. There's still a lot to admire about this movie. Great animation, great action, great story, dark moments that work incredibly well. It's definitely one of the stronger DC animated movies. Even if you're not into Batman Beyond, this will make you want to get into it. And it was because of this that I did eventually get into watching Batman Beyond. And I will say, like I said, it's good. It's not Batman the Animated Series great, but it's good enough on its own to say that I do recommend it. Especially, I do recommend this movie. So, let's wrap this long episode up. I know I've been going off for a long period of time now, but I have one more movie here that I wanted to talk about. Not a direct-to-video movie, but the last notable film of 2000 I did not get to cover beforehand, Shadow of the Vampire.
Now had an obsession to create the world's most realistic vampire movie. He dug up an actor.
I'd like some makeup.
Well, you don't get any.
Who didn't just play the part,
But you're not feeding. No, you're not drinking her blood.
he lived it. John Malkovich
How dare you destroy my photographer? Why not the script girl?
and Willem Dafoe had an eat her later. Shadow of the Vampire.
And that's the reason why this movie is memorable. Willem Dafoe as this vampire monster, Max Schreck. And the basic story is that it's a fictionalized account of the making of the classic vampire film Nosferatu, directed by F. W. Murnau, who's played here by John Malkovich, during which the film crew began to have disturbing suspicions about the leading actor. And it's just such an amazing movie, man. I mean, this is a very underrated vampire movie, mostly because of what Willem Dafoe brings to the table as Schreck. You can tell why he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for this. I mean, This is a great performance. Just he's sold on this movie altogether, and it's very. And when you look at him, and you also look at Max Scheck in real life, you could tell the differences between the two. You can tell the similarities between the two of them, and I love the way they're able to do. I love the way they're able to go as close as you can to the original source material, but make it its own thing. It's such a very unique film. It's this director. He actually would later go on to direct a very lackluster psychological thriller called Suspect Zero. But before this, he actually did a experimental horror movie, which was called Begotten, which was basically no dialogue whatsoever. And I think the story about it was that it has a lot of the visual style that's in this movie, evoking a lot of early silent films. And I've never seen that one, but you could definitely tell that was supposed to, that he took that into consideration with this particular film, and it just shows how well it's done here. Like, phenomenal movie, very underrated film. I don't think a lot of people ever talk about this one, but it's definitely worth it. Go seek this one out if you can find it. Shadow of the Vampire, fantastic film.
Wasn't welcome.
What's he doing?
Giving up on your dream.
How do you get your leg to twist like that? Accident. It's really not a big deal.
I think it is until she met someone. Maybe you want to look up sometime? Look at you. Who wouldn't give up on her?
It's just so hard.
They were born to do it.
Now, cool up.
Save the last dance. The almost there. Rated PG-13. Sneak preview.
So in this movie, you have Julia Stiles and Sean Patrick Thomas as a teenage interracial couple in Chicago who work together to help Stiles' character train for a Juilliard School dance audition. And, I mean, we've pretty much seen movies like this before in the past and the present, and this one isn't anything too special or anything too in particular fascinating or any way, shape, or form. I mean, it is pretty much a movie we've seen done over and over again, and it's fine for what it is. I don't think it's anything too grand or too spectacular in any way, shape, or form, but back then people ate this movie up. I mean, this was a massive hit when it came out. Grossed over $100 million worldwide, over a $13 million budget, so it does have a following to it. I saw it a long time ago, and from what I remember from it, I just remember it just being okay. I didn't really think there was anything too spectacular about it, anything too intriguing about it. I mean, I like Julia Stiles and Sean Patrick Thomas. I think their chemistry overall is very good, and I think they do carry a lot of the emotional weight of the film in general, but the story, like I said, it's very predictable. It's been there, done that. We've seen this stuff done over and over again. Directed by Thomas Carter, who's directed a couple movies we've actually tackled before. Metro, the last movie he did, was pretty good, and he would later go on to direct Coach Carter after this, which I thought was a really good film. So, overall, I don't think this is a bad movie per se, but it's one we've seen done over and over again. Anything too spectacular in this one, I'm trying to say here. Nothing too intriguing, nothing too that interesting. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but it's not one I'd say go out and rush and see it in any way, shape, or form, so. Not much more to say about that one. That's Save the Last Dance. So let's go ahead and get to the type of movies you expect to see on a weekend like in January, early January. Here's one of those movies that's one of those films that you could tell was clearly dumped for the sake of being dumped on this weekend because they knew how bad it was going to be. Here's Double Take.
Do I look like Puffy?
There are people out there who want you dead.
On January 12th, make the switch.
There's not gonna be any Rodney Kings going on.
See the sights.
What is up with your eyes?
And get ready for the ride of your life.
How you doing, sisters?
It's their first time on a train.
It's a first time for everything.
Double Take, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, January.
So yeah, simple plot in this movie. Eddie Griffin's going to have to act like Orlando Jones. Orlando Jones is going to have to act like Eddie Griffin. And it'd be funny if there was actually a good script to work with here, but sadly there is not. And as much as Orlando Jones is trying his hardest to save this movie, him and Eddie Griffin, it's not enough to save the film in general here. It's a really kind of a lackluster film. Like, I saw it a long time ago, and I really do not remember too much about it. I thought it was just not funny, a plot that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The humor wasn't there, the writing wasn't there. It's just a largely forgettable film, and really, that's all I got to say about this movie. It's a film that comes and goes, and it's the perfect definition of type of movie that they dump in January because they obviously do not believe in it, and the results speak for themselves here. So that's Double Take, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Kevin Costner in 13 Days.
We now count 40 missiles to kill 80 million Americans.
The threat is real.
What's the next step?
Let the airstrikes start in 28 hours.
The pressure is on.
We're gonna hit them. Hit them hard. It's a wrong move.
And time is running out.
Guns are loaded, sir.
This is a setup.
13 days, rated PG-13.
So this movie basically is a dramatization of the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, seen from the perspective of the U.S. political leadership. You have Kevin Costner starring as the top White House assistant, Kenneth P. O'Donnell, Bruce Greenwood as President Kennedy, Stephen Culp as Robert F. Kennedy, Dylan Baker as Robert McNamara, and directed by Roger Donaldson, who's directed a couple of movies we've talked about on the show before, including most notably stuff like Species, Dante's Peak, White Sands, Cadillac Man, Cocktail, The Getaway. A decent action director overall, but this, I'll say this movie isn't the worst. It's not even a bad movie per se, but it's not as good as I think it should be. I think it's a film that really takes dramatic licensing to another level, tries to ump up the dramatic effect for something that probably should be more in depth. Like if you had a better writer or director, like you're an Oliver Stone, for example, like an Oliver Stone at his peak around this time, or maybe somebody like who's another person? Maybe I'm trying to think of who else might have made this work. Maybe Scorsese, maybe, but Oliver Stone or Martin Scorsese, probably the two people I think of. I don't know if I trust the guy that also did Cocktail, or a writer here that really has not done a whole lot of noteworthy works. His other works have included The Haunting, which definitely not a good start, nor it was The Wolfman. But he did do Road to Perdition, so he at least did something of noteworthiness that was actually pretty good. But, I mean, the movie, it's not bad per se, but it's just not as good as I think they wanted it to be. I feel like it's a film that had a lot of good intentions to it. It has a really good cast overall. I mean, Kevin Costner, Bruce Greenwood, Stephen Culp, Dylan Baker. Strong cast overall here, but just not a really good movie to support a really engaging storyline about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I think it could have been done a whole lot better overall. But in this case, not so much. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's a decent movie overall, but it definitely could have been a whole lot better. That's just my thinking on that one. So I just realized before we even get to Antitrust, I completely forgot to talk about our next movie here. This is actually being recorded after I've done all the other movies on here. So my apologies to that. Here's Finding Forrester.
Me, Mr. Wallace? It is a melancholy truth. You will hear the Kipling. Come on, Professor. Come on.
God, he's such a good kid. They always let you get so far before they take everything away from you. This holiday season, a kid with a gift will find the one person who can give him a chance.
Perhaps you'll find a way to amaze even me.
From the director of Good Will Hunting. You're the man now, dog. Finding Forrester. Rated PG-13. December 19th in select cities. Christmas Day in additional cities.
So in Finding Forrester, you have this black teenager, played by Rob Brown, who's invited to attend a prestigious private high school. By chance, he befriends a reclusive writer, played by Sean Connery, and he refines his talents for writing and comes to terms with his identity. It's one of those coming-of-age storylines that, in general, we've seen done over and over again, and this one doesn't really do anything a whole lot differently, except it gives Sean Connery a chance to show off more of his dramatic abilities and why he won an Oscar for something like The Untouchables, and show that he does have range as an actor. And I think he's perfectly fine in the film. Rob Brown, I think, is perfectly fine in the movie. So is Anna Paquin, F. Murray Abraham, Busta Rhymes. But in general, the movie doesn't really do anything that we haven't seen done in various other films like this, where you have... It's too much like Good Will Hunting in a way, which is coincidental because this comes from the same director. But to his credit, it's definitely a lot better than his last movie he directed, which was Psycho, which... Yeah, he definitely needed a big step in the right direction after that one. But this, it's a fine movie in general. It's nothing too interesting. It's nothing too engaging. But if you want to see some good performances overall, I think it's perfectly fine for what it is. So, not much more to say about that one. So that is Finding Forrester. That is 13 Days. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie we have here, and that is Antitrust.
These guys are in the information business.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm paranoid.
I think it's part of the camera. They killed my best friend.
Something's going on!
No escaping.
You can't get away from people like this. I won't pretend like everything's okay.
Antitrust. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, January 12th. Only in theaters.
One of those movies that was clearly intended for some other time in the year, but MGM saw how bad it was and basically said, yeah, we're dumping this in January. You have the story here about young idealistic programmers at a large corporation that offers a significant salary, an informal working environment, and creative opportunities for those talented individuals willing to work with them. And you have this charismatic CEO played by Tim Robbins, who seems to be good-natured, but of course, Ryan Felipe plays somebody who begins to unravel the terrible hidden truths of the operation, and you could pretty much see where this goes from here. It is not an engaging movie whatsoever. It's a pretty boring movie the more I think about it, and I don't know. Like, it also has Rachel Lee Cook, Claire Forlani, and it's just, there's nothing about this movie that's exciting or interesting in the slightest. It's a really dull movie that does not have a lot of things to it whatsoever. It's just kind of a mediocre film on so many levels. It has a lot of bad cliches, a lot of mediocre storylines, and it just doesn't work altogether. It's a really abysmal film, honestly. And like I said, it's a film you could clearly tell it was intended to be something that was supposed to be seen in any of the other months of the year. This is clearly a January movie that was dumped because they knew how bad it really was, and you can definitely see why. So we talked about some bad movies here, so let's get to some good movies. How about the Coen brothers' newest film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
To get back to his wife and kids, Ulysses Everett McGill will do anything.
Hey, any boys, Smitty.
When he's about to get off on the wrong track.
Who elected you leader of this outfit? Well, Pete, I figured it should be the one with the capacity for abstract thought. Boys, just stick with me.
Yeah, we're in a tight spot.
Believe me, I got a plan. And I can get my wife back and we can get out of here.
Okay, I'm with you fellas.
Is you going to introduce us, Pete?
I'll feed them first.
So, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is, of course, the latest film from the Coen brothers, following up on The Big Lebowski. This one takes place in rural Mississippi during the 1930s, and it follows three escaped convicts played by George Clooney, John Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson, searching for hidden treasure while a sheriff relentlessly pursues them. And the story is basically a modern satire mixed in with a lot of elements of the social features of the American South, as well as a loosely based storyline based on Homer's epic Greek poem, The Odyssey. In fact, if you watch this, you see the sirens in the trailer there, a Cyclops, the main character's name is Ulysses, which is the Roman name for Odysseus. I mean, it's a lot to take in, but man, this is a great movie, man. I mean, this is right when the Coen brothers were at their peak. Fargo, Big Lebowski, and then this movie. And I'm not much of a bluegrass person, but this movie will make you want to listen to bluegrass, country, and folk music. I mean, it's really, really damn good music. And the acting, top-notch, really funny stuff. Just a very hilarious film, a visually stunning film to look at. It's a great movie overall. It's a film that I cannot recommend enough. It's really one of those movies that I really cannot say a whole lot more about, but it's just a great movie, man. I love this film a lot. John Goodman, Holly Hunter, Charles Durning, a phenomenal cast in general in this film. Just great movie. Great movie. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie we have here, and that is David Mamet's State and Maine.
Rolling Stone calls State of Maine the year's best comedy. It's about the quest for purity.
I don't want to take my shirt off.
Alec Baldwin has never been funnier. Everybody needs a hobby. Sarah Jessica Parker is sly and sexy.
Hi.
William H. Macy is sublime.
Are you kidding me?
Philip Seymour Hoffman is a revelation. David Paymer is ruthlessly funny.
I'm gonna wet myself.
And Rebecca Pidgeon is sassy.
It's absurd.
So is our electoral process, but we still vote.
State and Maine, a David Mamet film, rated R. Starts tomorrow.
So the story of State and Maine is that you have, having left New Hampshire over excessive demands by the locals, the cast and crew of this movie called The Old Mill moves their movie shoot to a small town in Vermont. However, they soon discover the Old Mill burned down in 1960, and the star can't keep his pants zipped up, the starlet won't take her top off, and the locals are quite as easily conned as they appear. And for David Mamet, this is one of those films where it's just like, It's definitely one of his movies, but it definitely feels a lot different compared to his other movies that we've talked about. We've talked about stuff like Things Change. We've talked about Homicide, Oleana, The Spanish Prisoner. I don't think we covered The Winslow Boy, but David Mamet has been a phenomenal director and a phenomenal writer in general. This is one of those films when I remember watching it, and I don't really remember too much about it, except that it has a stacked cast of William H. Macy, Sarah Jessica Parker, Alec Baldwin, Julia Stiles, Philip Seymour Hoffman, David Paymer, Clark Gregg, Patti LuPone, Charles Durning, Jonathan Katz, Laura Silverman. John Krasinski has an uncredited cameo in this movie as well. It's an intriguing idea overall and a decent film from Mamet, but it's definitely not one of his stronger films in general. I feel like he's made a lot better movies than this film, and it's just kind of like, this one's just okay. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but it definitely feels like it could have been a whole lot better considering the talent they have on here. But, I don't know, I thought it was a decent film overall, but it's definitely not one of David Mamet's stronger films, in my opinion.
Ago, we got a homicide, same victim profile, Jack Nicholson.
Who did this?
We intend to find out.
Do you promise me that you will?
Aaron Eckhart. You want me to reopen a case because you got a hunch? Helen Mirren.
You could expect another incident.
Robin Wright Penn.
Where's Chrissy? Chrissy!
Vanessa Redgrave.
How could God be so greedy?
Sam Shepard.
You gotta get a hold of yourself.
The Sean Penn film.
I made a
Promise. The Pledge. Rated R. Starts Friday, January 19th.
So Jack Nicholson plays a Reno, Nevada detective. He retires and pledges to the mother of a murdered girl that he would find the killer. Jerry doesn't believe the police arrested the right man. He discovers that this is the third incident in the area in the recent past with victims young, blonde, and pretty and small for their ages. So he buys an old gas station in the mountains near the crimes in order to search for a tall man who drives a black station wagon, gives toy porcupines as gifts, and calls himself the Wizard, all clues from the drawing by the dead girl. Jerry's solitary life gives way to friendship with a woman and her small blonde daughter, has Jerry neglected something that may prove to be fatal. The last movie Sean Penn directed was actually a film that starred Jack Nicholson, a criminally underrated film called The Crossing Guard. And while this isn't quite as good as that movie, it's actually a lot better than what you would expect in the month of January, honestly. Add into account that this is also Franchise Pictures, the company that was notoriously known for making some pretty bad movies. Get Carter, Driven, the whole 9 yards was probably their best movie overall, but this is actually maybe a close second, if not maybe a little bit better than that. I forgot how good this movie was. This is a criminally underrated film, and I couldn't believe I couldn't remember that Gene Hackman was not in this one, but it was Jack Nicholson, because Jack Nicholson's really good in this movie. I mean, this is a film that you could tell that he and Sean Penn work well together because they both were, like I said, on The Crossing Guard, which is a great film. And this one has a great, he leads a great cast that includes Patricia Clarkson, Aaron Eckhart, Helen Mirren, Robin Wright Penn, Vanessa Redgrave, Mickey Rourke, Benicio del Toro, Sam Shepard. Just a terrific cast, a really good mystery overall. It's a really good movie. I cannot believe I can't remember how much I liked this. I can't believe I don't remember how much I liked this one, because I remember, it's been a while since I've seen this one, but I remember really liking it when I saw it. And, like I said, everything should be going against it because it's in January. It's by Franchise Pictures, a company that was not known for making great movies, but here's one that really is a criminally underrated film. Maybe not as good as something like The Crossing Guard, but it's definitely worth it. It shows that Sean Penn knows what he's doing when it comes to directing, because he would follow this up with Into the Wild, which is probably his best film overall. But very underrated film. If you have not seen The Pledge, I would say definitely check it out. It's actually much better than you would give it credit for, considering everything it has going against it. But so that's The Pledge. So let's go ahead and move on to some of these movies that have been out for a couple weeks now that I'm just getting to now. Starting with Sam Raimi's The Gift.
In our investigation.
Imagine a crime.
You stay at Jerry.
Imagine a killer.
How'd your arm get all scratched up?
Imagine a witness who wasn't even there.
I'm glad that girl's dead.
Kate Blanchett, Katie Holmes.
What's the matter? You see something bad?
The Gift from director Sam Raimi.
So this stars Kate Blanchett as a psychologist who is involved in a murder case when she acquires knowledge of it through her extrasensory perception and psychic abilities. And as you see there, Keanu Reeves, Giovanni Ribisi, Hilary Swank, Katie Holmes, Greg Kinnear are among the cast in this. Written by Billy Bob Thornton, who the two of them worked together on A Simple Plan, which is a criminally underrated Sam Raimi film. This one's not quite as good, definitely has a lot of flaws to it, but again, kind of like with The Pledge, it's much better than I think a lot of people give her credit for. It shows what Katie Holmes' abilities can be as an actress. She's very good in the film. Everybody in this movie works pretty well. There is a really good mystery involved in this film. There's a lot of creepy elements to the movie. And it does show Sam Raimi's range as a director. This is another one of those. This is one of those movies from that time when he was trying to do something very different from his usual filming style, and it works to a good advantage in some of the movies that he's done. Again, not as good as some of his other movies, but this is one that's actually very underrated. If you haven't seen it, I'd say definitely check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. So not much more to say about The Gift, so let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the infamous, the one and only Dracula 2000.
Only one movie will get your adrenaline pumping, your heart racing, and keep you... What the hell was that? Dracula. He's real. On the edge of your seat.
This isn't real.
Wes Craven presents Dracula 2000. Rated R. In theaters everywhere Friday, December 22nd.
Ah, yes, the legendarily bad Dracula 2000. In this Millennium version of the classic Gothic horror, we find Abe Van Helsing, played by Christopher Plummer, who is tangled with Count Dracula, played by a pre-300 Gerard Butler in the past, working as an English antiques dealer. And then you have Simon, played by Johnny Lee Miller, who is a vampire hunter in training under his apprenticeship. Van Helsing and Simon travel from London to New Orleans to rescue Van Helsing's daughter, Mary, from the family's lifelong nemesis, Dracula. Now, adapting this story to modern times should not be as complicated as it is, but this was Miramax, not even Miramax, this was Dimension Films back then. They put this type of movie that should not open up on a Christmas weekend. They can't accept the fact that Scream was a one-time thing that should have... And Scream and Scream 2 were a one-time opportunity thing where they open on Christmas, around Christmas time, they do very well because they're good movies. And then this is just like, no, we're going to put more horror movies out there because that's what everyone wants to see when they go to the movies during the holiday season. The Faculty comes to mind, An American Werewolf in London. That's the good one. An American Werewolf in Paris, that terrible movie. And then you have this movie right here. It's just... Which, even if this movie didn't open up around Christmas time, it really would not have worked altogether. This is directed by Patrick Lussier, who went on to direct such great films as My Bloody Valentine 3D, and Drive Angry, and the Dracula sequels, and White Noise, The Light. So his career has not really taken a step in the right direction, and this movie really is really bad. It's really... Basically, it's doing every bad... early 2000s millennium is way of trying to appeal to trying to modernize the story for a new generation, thinking it's like basically this is just a bunch of old people thinking what is cool and hip to the kids. Let's put that in this movie, and it doesn't work. It does not work at all, and it really shows. It's not scary, it's not interesting, the cast is pretty bland. It's a really bad movie. Avoid this one like the plague. Plain and simple. Dracula 2000. Dracula 2000, man. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to some better movies. We have All the Pretty Horses next.
A raving 2 thumbs up. It's one of the best films of the year. They don't make movies like this anymore. Matt Damon gives the performance of his career. Oscar should shine on him. All the Pretty Horses. Rated PG-13. In theaters everywhere Christmas Day.
Okay, maybe better movies was maybe a little bit of an overstatement, but Billy Bob Thornton directed this one, so that's something. You've got 2 young Texas cowboys on the cusp of manhood riding into 1940s Mexico in search of experience. What they find is a country as chaotic as it is beautiful, as cruel and unfeeling as it is mysterious, where death is a constant capricious this is a hard word to say, capricious companion. Yeah, it's a pretentious Oscar bait movie. I mean, no doubt. That's really what it all comes down to here. The movie itself was pretty pan when it came out. This is based off a Cormac McCarthy book, and of course, Cormac McCarthy gave us No Country for Old Men, which turned into a much better film later on in the decade. But waste a really good cast: Matt Damon, Henry Thomas, Sam Shepard, Robert Patrick, Lucas Black, Penelope Cruz, Ruben Blades, Bruce Dern. Really good cast in this movie, but it is pretty much a pretentious, cliched Oscar bait movie that's trying to win Academy Awards. I mean, you see that trailer and you think, oh, Matt Damon's the best thing about the movie, and in some ways he is, but at the same time, he's not. It's not really saying that much compared to how bad this movie is. I mean, it is really not that good of a film. It's a really dull movie that runs way too long. Over 2 hours long. Nothing interesting of note happens in this. It's a pretentious movie. It's just too much. It's so much of its own you-know-what that it just really... The enjoyment factor just isn't there with this one. And it's really a letdown of a movie, considering the talent on board here. It's just kind of like... I don't know. You expect so much better from it, but it's just not there, So yeah, all the pretty horses. I mean, it's better than Dracula 2000, but... not by that much, so let's see if we can truly end the show on a positive note with our last movie here, You Can Count on Me.
Alcohol, marital problems, sexual problems.
Good job, you got it, man.
Well, I like it. Laura Linney, Mark Ruffalo, Rory Culkin, Matthew Broderick.
You're fired.
I feel nervous about firing an employee I just had an affair with, okay?
You Can Count on Me.
It's a little bit better. You have Laura Linney, Mark Ruffalo, Rory Culkin, and Matthew Broderick, and the film follows a single mother living in a small Catskills mountain town and her complicated relationship with her family and friends. And directed by Kenneth Lonergan, who later went on to direct Manchester by the Sea. He also wrote Analyze This and The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. So he's got some decent titles to his name, and this is a pretty good movie. I mean, it does kind of fall into a little bit of an Oscar bait territory, but the performances, I think, are good enough for it to stand out on its own. Matthew Broderick's actually really good in the movie for the little bit that he's in, playing a little bit outside of his normal characters that we usually see him in. And Laura Linney, man. Laura Linney usually will turn in a good performance regardless of what you put her in. I mean, Mark Ruffalo will, too. Interesting storylines, good characters overall. Decent film. Not a great film, but it's better than a lot of the movies we've looked at today, so... you got to give me that, but You Can Count on Me.
Was her career.
I'm the wedding planner.
Until fate stepped in.
You saved my shoe.
You met a guy? Eddie, this is Mary, the wedding planner. Hey, this is my fiance, Eddie.
We danced. Nothing happened.
Then why'd you almost kiss me?
I am going to let her plan the wedding.
And that's just what I'm going to do.
Keep an eye on a professional! Who's gotten into you?
Hi.
You ever think about that night in the park? I do.
Jennifer Lopez, Matthew McConaughey, The Wedding Planner. Rated PG-13.
So as the title indicates, Jennifer Lopez is the wedding planner. She's an ambitious, hardworking, extremely organized woman, and she knows exactly what to do and say to make any wedding a spectacular event. But when Mary falls literally for a handsome doctor, played by Matthew McConaughey, her busy yet uncomplicated life is turned upside down. He's the groom in the biggest wedding of her career. Will she help him walk down the aisle with his internet tycoon girlfriend, or will Mary finally get to be the bride herself? When it comes to love, you can never plan what's going to happen unless you're a romantic comedy, and you know good and goddamn well what's going to happen here. I mean, this is... First of all, Jennifer Lopez cannot find love. How am I supposed to buy into that? I mean, have you seen Jennifer Lopez even back then? Yeah, clearly she's going to have a hard time finding somebody. I mean, just clearly that's going to happen. But yeah, it's one of those movies. It's one of those romantic comedies where you either go along with it or you just have to really trash it because it's just not a good movie. Well, let's start with the chemistry between Lopez and McConaughey. I mean, it's fine. It's nothing too spectacular or nothing too amazing, but it's far from the worst chemistry in a romantic comedy I've ever seen. I mean, it's passable, but it doesn't really do anything to really up itself to another level, and it doesn't help that the rest of the movie is kind of your typical comedy, is bad rom-com cliches, bad rom-com storylines, like you know what's going to happen, the jokes really aren't going to be there, and we all know what's going to happen when it's all said and done. It's basically going to be the fact that these two will eventually get together in the end, and what do you know? They get together at the end. Really fooled us there. Not really, but, I don't know. Like, these movies are very, very tough for me to get behind, really. Like, again, it all depends on if your romantic lead's chemistry is very good, and it's fine, like I said, but it's not anywhere near as good as it should be. for this to really succeed. Like, you really need this to be really damn good in order for me to look past the fact that it's a mediocre storyline, not a lot of good jokes in it. And unfortunately, I can't really say that. I can say, though, this is the first film directed by Adam Shankman, who has made more than a couple of movies I've actually kind of enjoyed. I thought A Walk to Remember was okay. I was one of those few people that really thought the ridiculousness of Bringing Down the House kind of worked, and you could say the same thing about The Pacifier. I like Cheaper by the Dozen, too. I like Bedtime Stories. I'm one of the few people that really likes Rock of Ages. Hairspray, I probably think, is his best movie overall. I like What Men Want. I mean, he has made a lot of good movies, but probably this and Disenchanted are probably two of his worst movies in general. And actually, now that I think about it, when I look back at Disenchanted, this probably is not as bad as Disenchanted is. I think Disenchanted didn't work because it was a sequel that was coming way too late, and it was a story that really did not work altogether compared to the first Enchanted movie. But there's at least something in here I like about it, but Disenchanted, not so much. But we'll eventually get to that one down the road. But The Wedding Planner, I've seen worse, but I have seen much better, too. So, it's probably a masterpiece compared to the last movie we have here, and that is Sugar and Spice. So basically the storyline of this is that you have a group of high school cheerleaders who conspire and commit armed robbery, with one of them becoming pregnant and desperate for money, and one of them is about to marry James Marsden in this movie. The four of the ladies in here: Marla Sokoloff, Marley Shelton, 5 of them actually: Melissa George, Mina Savari, Rachel Blanchard. Decent actresses on their own, and I like this premise. It's a fun premise in general, but it's one of those movies that really backfires because of the lackluster comedy. I mean, sitcoms on TV back then were much smarter than this movie is. I mean, hell, even sitcoms nowadays, like even broadcast sitcoms, like on CBS and NBC, would be looking at this and going, we're much funnier than that, and we're not even trying to be funny. And it's just like, it just doesn't work in the end. It's a film that I think has a lot of potential to it, just from the storyline, just from the storyline and the concept alone, but the basic idea overall is just kind of like, yeah, it just didn't really work out in the long run. And it's one of those movies where the writer of this actually changed her name to a pseudonym because Alan Smithy was no longer usable anymore. And this person that actually wrote this is Lana Williams, who we've talked about before. She's been a writing assistant on The Simpsons. She was also in Drop Dead Gorgeous, which I talked about that one as a criminally underrated film, and this probably could have been a whole lot better, but again, it just has the really lackluster comedy to go along with it. It feels like a film that was coming out just because, Bring It On was a big success the previous summer, and so, Warner Brothers basically said, hey, we got to get in on this, but Bring It On was much better than this movie, and this one, it's not bad. It's a bad movie, but the actresses, I think, are trying their best. It's not really helping them all that much that the writing's not that great. And again, there could have been so much more to it if the comedy had been much funnier, if the writing had been much more clever. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work in the end. It's a real disappointment because the premise was very promising, and in the end, it just didn't live up to that potential at the end. So that's my thoughts on Sugar and Spice.